Greetings, everyone. Core here. And like I said before, if you saw my last review of Captain Marvel, time to do some Sunday spoils, spoilers, because I want to talk about Captain Marvel and just spoil the hell out of it. Mostly because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. I mean, not just for Captain Marvel, just as far as the Marvel cinematic universe. It's becoming its own threat to itself. It seems like. I mean, the Captain Marvel movie is good. You know, it's a good Marvel movie. It's not the best, of course. And out of all the origin movies, which really, I mean, you only have Captain America, Iron Man. I don't consider Incredible Hulk uh, part of the MCU just because it doesn't seem like they really are using that Hulk background besides maybe one line that got deleted and then got added into Avengers when Ruffalo said it. But yeah, like really, there's only been well, I mean, okay, of course you do have the Guardians of the Galaxies and stuff like that, but out of the origin movies, the first movies of their series, which I hope there's another Captain Marvel movie because I think that would be pretty awesome, especially if she starts going to more space stuff. Um, it just it's the weaker, to say the least. But granted, of course, that's saying pretty highly of the other ones too as well because those were all great movies to say the least. So Captain Marvel's still in good company. It's still a very good movie. It's not the best Marvel movie, but it's definitely not the worst Marvel movie. It does have its pacing problems, especially at the beginning, but as soon as they get on Earth, everything kind of works out and stuff. I've been looking at some of the reviews, asking friends that's seen it as well, coworkers and everything, and the major concession man, I can't say that word. The major concession I just can't say it, screw it. The majority of them said they liked it or they really loved it. So it's a great movie, yeah. I mean, a good movie for me, great for most, but that's just probably because I see a lot of superhero movies and I'm starting to get a little more critical about them, especially now that we've seen Infinity Wars, seeing Guardians doing something different, seeing, Iron Man go through almost like a, death throes with its movies, and just Captain America, increasingly making them more and more better, almost standalone Avengers movies. So yeah, man, like really, it's you kind of expect something new and something better, especially like Doctor Strange. Even I would say Doctor Strange is a little bit better movie. I guess just because it's a modern movie where this is a time period piece, 90s, so there's a lot of stuff. Like I said, there's a lot of nostalgia stuff for me, especially because that was when I grew up. So they really dipped their toes in it, which worked a lot of times. A couple times could have had a better choice instead of some of the songs, especially. But overall, I mean, like I said, it's a good movie. I think Brie Larson would be really good. In this movie, of course, she is more limited as far as her personality, just because of the story. So the story, of course, starts off her on Hala, which is the Kree. I believe it was the Kree capital planet. So it's 6 years after she was abducted after the accident. So pretty much, the Kree had kidnapped her after an accident with an experimental light speed engine aircraft that she was piloting for the original Marvel, which interesting choice. They actually made a female. She's a pretty much a scientist for the U.S. Air Force, making this high tech stuff, and most of the female pilots aren't combat ready. They go. This is the only chance they get to fly most of the time, so that's the whole reason they have such a strong connection. Which I mean, yeah, that happened. So it is really cool to see that and acknowledge that fact, nonetheless, in a major blockbuster movie. But yeah, so Marvel is Kree. She's on Earth. She's kind of hiding. The whole story is, you follow Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, you know, who was named Verse, which is just the remnants of her name tag that was burned off during an accident when they found her. So they just called her Verse instead of Carol Danvers. So it's just the last part, and she's becoming a Kree warrior. She goes on the first mission. She pretty much gets captured from a Skrull. Uh, man, I am just not good at words today. Ambush. A Skrull ambushes them, and she gets taken, and they have this really cool scene of where they're mind diving her and just like going through all her old memories because she had been brainwashed by the Kree, so not remember really anything besides what they tell her, and everything that she's known for the last however many years she's been training to be a Kree warrior and stuff like that, which they didn't really say. I've heard some people complain about it, but you got to think. I mean, if they kidnap her, they're probably doing something, trying to figure out what's going on, because the whole thing, how she gets most of her powers is she blows during that test pilot phase. She blows up the engine so that the they couldn't get it, and she absorbs the power from that engine, which later on, of course, we figure out. But let me try to go in order. So the brain diving her, she escapes. She ends up crashing on Earth after the Skrulls find the person they're looking for, which is Marvel's character hiding on Earth, and they're pretty much in orbit, and they all crash in as the ship. She pulls a hole in the ship, and it's pretty cool fight scene. I mean, you start getting some more personality out of her. You could definitely tell, she is not Kree. She is more human-like because, the Kree kind of suppress the emotions a little bit, and the Kree have pretty much almost they're like semi-Vulcans. They're like they're like Spock. They do indulge in their emotions, but they mostly try to keep them, in check at least. So she crash lands. She goes on a hunt. They have her meeting with, Samuel L. Jackson, uh, Nick Fury, who's a field agent at the time of Shield, which he doesn't pronounce the whole name of Shield. He just calls it Shield. And of course, you get a rookie, Coulson, which they look great, being youngified pretty much. Uh, what else? So the Skrull attack. They see what happens. They start invading, you know, the society. They invade Shield. They pretty much get everything they need to do, except for find, the secret lab of Marvel, so they could get this light speed engine drive and the power source for it. So goes on an adventure. A lot of people are comparing it to like Buddy Cop, where it's Fury and Captain Marvel, fish out of water with the, you know, secret agent cop. They go to the Air Force base. They start, she starts figuring out and remembering stuff, piecing things together. They go back to the, like I said, the Air Force base where Marvel was working at, where Danvers was, flying out of. They start tracking down information about what happened. They found out about the space, the light speed ship. Uh, they tracked down her, best friend who was also a pilot. And during this whole time, of course, they have the Skrulls, kind of causing a little bit of trouble for them. Every time they try to get ahead, they just knock them back down a little bit. They keep them in check, and they're just always on their tail, pretty much. So the Kree are also coming. They get a message from Danvers as she lands. So they'll be there, within a day. Almost soon, really. And it's all very, like I said, it's all very good. Once they get to Earth, the pacing does um, settle a bit, because up until, from the Kree world to the ambush to, like I said, everything up until they start mind diving her, it just feels rushed in a way. There's not a lot of explanation, so some people do get lost on that if you don't know a little bit of her. So it's all, but once they get on Earth, then it starts feeling more stable. It's a lot more fluid as far as how it's, you know, gone, how everything goes through. And the one thing that annoyed me a little bit was the cat, Goose. Okay, I'll admit it has some good scenes. Used a little too much, I think, sometimes, especially to, offset certain situations for humor. But okay, I could deal with it. It wasn't too, uh, out there. It was more of a Baby Groot kind of thing. Used a little too much compared to Baby Groot, but nonetheless, it's kind of a Baby Groot thing. So, cute little thing. And it just steals the show because Goose, spoiler, of course, this is a completely spoiler video. The cat is an alien, which is a highly dangerous alien that could pretty much eat and absorb anything that it gets its little tentacles from its face from. Pretty scary, like I said, kind of a Groot thing because Groot can be very scary. So there's that. Uh, so they go to a friend, pilot's Carol Danvers' best friend uh, house out in the South Mississippi, I think, or Louisiana, one of the two, maybe somewhere around there. Pretty much, it looks like the house from Forrest Gump, which I feel like it is the house from Forrest Gump because it looks a lot like it, and even the whole landscaping and everything just looks like the house from Forrest Gump. Uh, so I assume it's Mississippi or Louisiana, but yeah. So they start piecing together more of Carol Danvers. Of course, there's a heartfelt talk between the two best friends, and she starts remembering more and more. During this whole time, of course, her powers are being suppressed by this little disc that the Kree kind of tell her, it's to help her control her powers, not, they gave her those powers because of that. So they say, it is easily given, it can be easily taken away. But of course, we go on to figure out that it's suppressing her powers and not giving her powers. So it gets pretty awesome when she finally, breaks free from that. And as they, fly up into, they find Marvel's laboratory after making a deal with the Kree leader that crash landed with them because they find out that the Kree are just trying to survive. They're refugees. That's the whole reason why they're, going to different planets and stuff like that. The Skrulls. I said Kree. I think I just said Kree. The Skrulls are refugees, which is true. I mean, the Kree do destroy their home world, just like in the comics, I believe, if I remember correctly. And the Skrulls are pretty much always on, just trying to survive, going planet to planet, surviving and trying to blend in while looking for a new homeworld. So that makes sense. Granted, of course, the whole Secret Invasion storyline does kind of, you know, makes you want to think it could happen if it could, which I think it can happen in the MCU because of one scene in particular, which I don't see a lot of people talking about, but I'll get to that as it come up. So they find Marvel's laboratory in space after making a deal with the Kree. The Kree after making a deal with the Skrulls. I don't know why. I guess those K words are getting me mixed up. um, and they start working together. They find out that the laboratory's actually been like a refugee little ship, keeping the a group of Skrulls, including the wife, you would assume, of the leader, and also the child of the leader, which is a female child, probably around 10 years, maybe no. Well, I mean, they're Skrulls, so uh, it's hard to tell how old they are, but yeah, it's a kid, and that's what I was getting to because the Kree Warrior Squad find them, uh, find the ship, find the laboratory, invade, take over, capture them. They try to convert Danvers back over. Fails. She has a cool moment. She starts unleashing her powers, which is more binary powered, especially later on when she goes into space. But they're just ramping up as she goes along and starts just wrecking house because there's no Kree on that ship that can match her power. And she has a little difficulties, mastering her powers because she's finally, 100% again, and she's got to rev up to that. So she's learning on the job pretty much. And like I said, there's a scene where the Skrulls are getting to safety, where one of them is disguised as one of the Kree guards that are trying to escort them to the airlocks to shoot them out, alien style. And he whispers to his wife to hide their daughter's eyes because he's gonna kill some people. And this is where I was saying I don't think a lot of people caught on to it. That so the Secret Invasion has it where it's the female queen of the Skrulls that is pretty much the main leader and the main source on the Avengers team that kind of does everyone in, which she uh, she pretty much takes over Wasp, which makes sense because Wasp has no superpowers. She has the suit. So the Skrulls usually I keep saying Kree, huh? So the Skrulls keep they usually go after regular humans, not so much superpowered humans. Even though I think in the comics they can mimic their powers as well. Most of them, but I could be wrong on that. Haven't read Secret Wars, Secret Invasion for a while, so it's not that fresh in my head. But nonetheless, I remember she was the female queen. She was Wasp because she used Ant-Man to make a bomb out of him to kill pretty much the last remnants of the resistance as they were taking over. So back to the story, the movie. As the father is killing the Kree, he tells her, the little Skrull girl, his daughter, you know, eyes shielded for the first kill. I start getting moved, not being shielded for the second and third kill, and she looks and sees them die as her father kills them. Her father kills them, and I think that's a little bit of a hint to something that may happen later with the Avengers and maybe an Avengers movie if they do go with the Secret Invasion because having her exposed to that lifestyle where she was pretty much sheltered most of her life, if not all her life, up until that point, not seeing, war and death and stuff like that. And then now, she's may get this idea of, hey, if it's necessary, we do it. And maybe she thinks of it necessary to, you know, take over Earth because it'll be easy because they're not as advanced as most other civilizations in the galaxies like the Kree and stuff like that. And as the movie goes on, you find out that pretty much Captain Marvel is now the weapon that keeps the Kree away from Earth from coming back to try to nuke it. So it makes sense. It's like, hey, why look for a new planet when we have this nice planet that's pretty set up, primitive compared to most other advanced races, but still pretty set up. And we have this superpower heroine who is pretty much protecting us already, so the Kree will not come back. And to me, that makes sense. I mean, that makes sense to me that might happen to do a secret invasion like that, and maybe Endgame might lead into that or have little hints because man, if you start thinking about it, like if you rewatch the Ant-Man movies, I mean, Wasp does do some crazy stuff, and they even say they replicate down to DNA, and What if also Hank Pym is kind of the same way, but granted he's a little more emotional. But then you got I think you know what was the oldest memory Wasp has if it's really true. So that's what I'm thinking, that maybe they can still do Secret Invasion like that with the daughter. So we'll see what happens to that. Hopefully they do, because Secret Invasions is a cool story. But we go on. So Captain Marvel's just wrecking house. Pretty much destroys a whole. Have you seen the Guardians of the Galaxies? Rowan the Accuser's ship. They have similar ships because the Accusers are Kree. They're like judges from Judge Dredd. Pretty much, they're like the heavy hitters. They're the bombers. They're the commanders on the field, and they just come in mostly just to brute force everything. So they just bombard these planets, and they get called in to bombard Earth because it's like, hey, the Skrulls are here. We gotta wipe them out. So Captain Marvel goes and defends, destroys the bombs before they hit, and then literally just pierces, just goes straight through one of the destroyer ships, the accuser ships, and just destroys it in like matter of seconds. And she just goes up to the next leading one, like right in the window. It's just like, what now? She does a cool little fist pump when she's all binary super powered up. It just makes like a nice little explosion around her, and it's like, let's retreat for now. We'll be back for the weapon. And it's like, oh, the weapon, the power source. Is like, nope, her. So we'll see what happens there. But the whole thing was, so the power source. Of course, I kind of skipped over a little bit. Once you're in the laboratory, it ends up being the Tesseract, which makes sense. The Tesseract has been, it's been used before to help create, superhuman, metahuman, metahuman people, which we know of Quicksilver and we know of Scarlet Witch. And I don't know if you could say Red Skull because he's, living, you know, just just how he is. He's just this like phantom being now, so he can't die. He can't really live. So, the Tesseract made sense that it was it was the Mind Stone, so maybe it unlocks the mind, it helps enhance the mind. So it's interesting that they use the Tesseract as the source of the power that was infused into Captain Marvel and gave her power. So, I mean, Scarlet Witch is pretty powerful too, considering, she was able to destroy the Mind Stone that was in Vision, as well as fend off Thanos during the whole time as she was destroying it. So that's pretty powerful, I think. You know, it makes sense that, yeah, Captain Marvel could be just as powerful, if not more, especially after being infused with the Kree blood and being a hybrid, and literally becoming the best of two races and being infused by this like omega power. So it makes sense why she's considered one of the most powerful, Marvel characters. Even though I think Thor has an upgrade, considering his hammer literally took on the full power of the Infinity Gauntlet head on and won as he drove his hammer, his axe into Thanos. But we gotta see, because Thor survived a ship exploding with the Power Stone. He's survived some pretty crazy. The full power of a dwarf star, neutron star, well, whatever it was that they were forging from. Granted, of course, Captain Marvel would have absorbed that energy because she absorbs energy, and would have made her stronger. But still, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in Endgame. I think that's gonna be the biggest thing that comes out of this movie. Is, yeah, we all want to see her in Endgame, which there is a. I didn't mention in my first review. There is a mid credit and then there's a end credit scene at the very end. Um, so at the end of the movie, of course, they win. The Tesseract stays on Earth. It's given to Fury. He holds on to it with the cat because the cat eats it. Goose eats the Tesseract as you know, cats do. And Captain Marvel helps escort the Skrulls to hopefully a new planet. So that's what she's been for the last uh, 20 years, I think, 20 something years, because it was like 90, I think it was 1995 that most of this takes place because they say the accident happened in 89. She was gone for she was dead or disappeared for 6 years. And then that would I mean, the math adds up. It's 1995, so that's that. And of course, like I said, mid credit scene, end credit scene, end credit scene at the very end of all the scrolls, uh, credits, the scrolling credits. You could just skip. It's stupid. It's funny. It's stupid, but it's still stupid. It's pretty much the cat heaving up the tesseract, which at first it seemed like it wasn't going to, but then it's just like, "Puh." It's like, yeah, let's just slide on this one, Marvel. That was kind of stupid, but it got funny as it went on. uh, but the mid credit scene was the big one, which is pretty much the Avengers right after the snap, as they got back to their headquarters, just realizing and tallying up all the death toll of the snap, all the destiny, and they had found the pager that Fury had, and it stops working after they had rigged it up so the power would not die. And they're like, "What's going on? It's reboot it, set up the signal again. We don't know what this is, but we need to keep doing it." Fury had it, and as they turn around, it's like there's Captain Marvel. She's like, "Where's Fury?" It's like, boop, that's it. It's like, man, you got teases like that. Which now that they show Captain Marvel, I think in the next, there's probably gonna be another trailer for Avengers Endgame. Hopefully soon, probably within the next week, I would assume. And they're probably gonna impose back Captain Marvel in the scenes with the Avengers because a lot of people are saying, yeah, some of the scenes it's like there's someone missing. A lot of people keep saying that it's gonna be, the Bruce Banner Hulk hybrid, Doctor, Banner, Doctor Hulk, but really it's probably just Captain Marvel. Because some of the spaces it's like it's kind of small for a Hulk or Professor Hulk. Even if they did that, like it's still kind of a small spacing, and just a regular sized person would just fit in there so much better compared to a semi hulked out Banner. So that's the rundown of Captain Marvel. It was good. It's not the best. Like I keep saying, it's not the best. It's not the worst. It's good. It feels like a Marvel movie, which a lot of them have this style look to it. I kind of wish there was more, at least a couple more Easter eggs and stuff. I was actually hoping for maybe a Nova, not just a Nova corpse, but an actual, helmet Centaurian Nova, just to appear, or even like the original Guardians of Galaxies or the Ravagers, to even appear too as well. But really nothing. It was pretty straightforward. It tried to be its own standalone movie. It felt like, but also had a few things, of course, that tied it in. But it was alright. It was good. Like that's just it's really I could just keep going back to it. It was good. It's just I expected more, and there was a lot they could have added more, but they played it pretty safe. I think they didn't want to go too crazy. I think it was the safe play because it wasn't bad. It was good. It's just it could have been better. That's all I keep saying to myself. But it was still fun. I enjoyed it enough. Seeing Adobe, cinema, it was pretty nice. Might switch to IMAX because I think IMAX it would look a little bit nicer, but we'll see. So that's my rant. That's my spoilers of the movie. Nearly half an hour. I don't think my last one went this long. Uh, I should probably cut this now because there's not much else I can say. I pretty much broke down the whole movie. There are the Stanley cameo is pretty nice. It comes about an hour in, about no 40 minutes after she lands on Earth. She starts uh, going after the Skrull that attacked her, which is nice. And actually, I saw one of Kevin Smith tweets about it. And got him a little teary because it's Stanley on the train that we've seen in the trailer. It's the Metro, and he's reading his lines for Mallrats. And I read that they, as Captain Marvel's, looking at the people trying to figure out who's the Skrull, and then she hears it. You can hear him, saying his lines, and she kind of looks over, like tips his little script in front of him down, and it's like he sees Dan. It's like, oh, he just looks up and smiles, and she just kind of like this little smirk and nod, and just like keeps going. It's just like, oh, they added that little smirk and nod, and it just made it so much better. She broke character a little bit, but honestly, I think it fit her character just well enough. So there also was a nice little dedication to him at the end as well, to Stanley at the end as well as at the beginning, which the Marvel, studio logo where it shows the different scenes from different movies and the heroes, it was all Stanley cameos from all the movies, which was great too as well. I mean, very touching, very touching. Hopefully they, continue. I know a lot of it. They're going to continue having them in the scenes, which yeah, but technology nowadays is pretty. I mean, you could add anyone, so I won't say I won't like it. I mean, having them in the cameos to continue on forever. I mean, that's pretty cool. But yeah, that's it for this Sunday spoils. Tell me what you think. I know I rambled on and I kind of jumped around a little bit, but I guess that's just me. I felt like just talking about this movie and just what I thought about it, which, like I said, I just can't stop getting over my head. It's like, it's good. I just wanted more. That's all. That's really all I can say. I just wanted more, which I think Shazam, when it comes out in the beginning of April, will probably excite me a little bit more because it does seem like there's a lot of stuff that they're hiding in that one. So, till next time, guys. Later.